Hi everyone, welcome to my channel English with Miss MK and welcome to this new video. Today I'm going to show you how to integrate a pronunciation lesson in another lesson, which may be reading, listening, or even grammar. Before we start, I'd like you to know that pronunciation is considered as a sub-skill just like grammar. Grammar and pronunciation are sub-skills, while listening, reading, speaking, and writing are considered as skills. So, the idea of integrating a pronunciation lesson in another lesson actually is a good idea because I think, and this is my point of view, pronunciation does not really need to be presented alone as a lesson because it should be actually presented in context and your pupils have to pronounce the words correctly, but these words have to be related to a given context, not just separate words like that. So I think that the idea of integrated pronunciation in another lesson is a good idea. I don't think if you share my point of view. So before we start, I'd like you to know that you have to keep the same context. It means when you present pronunciation lesson, you cannot present it like in a separate context or you create another context for it. No, you're for example presenting a listen and listen, you try to move smoothly from that listen and listen to pronunciation, or for grammar to pronunciation, or from listening to pronunciation, and even from reading, I would say, to pronunciation. Another thing you should bear in mind is the fact that pronunciation should not take more than 15 minutes. It should be presented by the end of a lesson, of a given lesson, reading, listening, or grammar, and it should be done actually in less than 15 minutes because, as you may know, pronunciation lessons are often light and they don't really need to be presented in more than 15 minutes. Another important thing you should bear in mind is related to the framework of my lesson. Pronunciation is like grammar. It follows PPU framework. It means presentation, practice, and use. So I'm going to move through the same steps as if I presented my lesson alone. So presentation, I'm going to present the new examples to my pupils, and then practice, I'm going to make them practice, providing them with activities, and then use, I'm going to make them use this output, I would say, in a communicative task, something very important you should not forget. You can, while moving from, for example, listening to pronunciation, you can provide your pupils with a very small warm-up or a very short icebreaker. This way your pupils are going to notice that there is a shift, but smoothly. It means from a skill to a sub-skill. So it has to be done smoothly. And you can introduce your pronunciation lesson with an activity, a riddle, for example, finding opposites or matching or filling the gaps. I'm going to show you examples in a moment. So you can provide your pupils the activity you wish according to the context, according to the activities that they have been presented previously. So you have to bear activities that you present in a pronunciation lesson should not be the same as the activities you presented in the previous lesson, which may be listening or reading or grammar. For example, if you have provided your learners with matching in the grammar lesson, don't repeat it in the pronunciation lesson. So you have to be creative, you have to be you don't have to stick to the same tasks because, as you may know, your pupils are going to get bored quickly. So you have to pay attention to these small details, which are very important for me. Another important thing you should bear in mind while integrating a pronunciation in another lesson is the rule. You have to state the rule of the pronunciation lesson briefly. Of course, after the step of presentation, you have to give them implicitly. We always stick to the approach of learning. Your pupils have to discover the rule by themselves. They have to state the rule by themselves, of course, with your collaboration. And after stating the rule, you have to provide your pupils with activities, as I said, but doesn't have to be like, you don't have to provide them with many activities. Just 2 activities are enough. One activity on the board or on handouts, another activity from the book as a homework or done in class. So you have to be smart, because you don't have like enough time to provide them with many activities. So just present 2, 3 maximum, I would say 2 activities in class and 1 activity as a homework at home. So I'm going to show you 2 examples of a pronunciation lesson from 3rd year and 2nd year. So the first lesson is going to be s, z, and is from the first sequence of the 3rd year English program. So we are going to start your lesson this way. Is actually integrated in a grammar lesson. After presenting the adverbs of frequency, I present the pronunciation lesson. I'm going to move smoothly here. So here I'm going to suggest some activities to my pupils after I finish my grammar lesson. I'm going to tell them to tell me the frequency of doing these activities. For example, I say, go shopping, to go shopping. So pupil 1 is going to say miss always, another pupil is going to say miss never, another pupil is going to say often. So I'm going to take one example and write it on the board. So I'm going to here write 4 examples, and then I'm going to interact with my pupils. Here I just presented, and then I'm going to interact with my pupils, something very important. It's a very important step, because here your pupils are going to discover the rule. What am I going to do now? I'm going to interact, as I said. Teacher asks pupils to read the sentences. Then we're going to ask them to pay attention to the underlined words. Then we're going to ask questions. Are the finals of these words pronounced alike or pronounced the same? They're going to say no. So you ask them, what is the difference? How do we pronounce each one? So you're going to rely on your pupils' answers to write the sounds under each word. So you're going to write, for example, in goes, maybe z, maybe s, maybe it depends. You're going to write your pupils' answers, and then you're going to ask them or explain to them that these sounds are related to the sounds that come before them, and you explain the difference, of course, and you state the rule briefly. Of course, I prefer to provide them with the rule on handouts or ask them to write it from the book. And then you provide them with a small. After interacting with my pupils, I'm going to ask them to classify these words in the table according to the pronunciation of final S. Here, I'm still in the phase of presentation. When they classify these words in the table, they're going to see the difference and recognize, analyze the words. This way, they're going to state the rule by themselves. So I'm going to tell them to pay attention to the sounds that come before each sound in these words, and they're going to, of course, with my collaboration, state the rule. So here, I prefer to provide them with the rule on handouts or write it from the book or briefly write it on the board. Just pay attention to the time. And then here I'm going to make things different. I'm going to provide them with an activity in which I'm going to cross the odd word in each list. Another example here is from sequence 1 for 2MS, silent H and silent D. Here it's taken from a listen and listen. After we deal with a physical description, I'm going to provide them with a riddle. Here it's just riddle, simple, explicit riddle. So here, for example, first one, opposite of dark, they're going to say light. We say beautiful for a woman, and for a man they're going to say handsome. Opposite of curly hair, they're going to say straight hair. And a fast food, they're going to provide you with words. You're going to choose a sandwich. So here, I'm looking for particular words. So I'm going to ask my pupils to read the words. And I'm going to ask them, are all the letters pronounced in each word? They're going to say maybe no. How do we call then each letter which is not pronounced? How do we call the letters that are not pronounced in a word? They're going to say maybe mute, or I don't know. So I'm going to tell them that they are called silent letters. And I'm going to ask them, can you give me some words with these silent letters? H and D, word which contains silent H or silent D. And then I'm going to ask them to do an activity from the book, or I provide them with my own activity. So that's how you should move from listening or reading or grammar lesson to a pronunciation lesson. You have to move smoothly and you have to make it interesting. And I often present or see pronunciation lesson as being interesting because I always provide my pupils with some games before I start the lesson, like the riddle I showed you. It's very, very practical, and it will make your pupils motivated to answer these riddles. So it's really fun. That's all, my dear followers. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to leave you some interesting links in the box so that you can check them out. Thank you again for watching this video. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.